What happens when one of Britain's most beloved actors walks onto a morning chat show expecting a friendly conversation, only to find himself under attack from a host who seems determined to tear him down? In just 37 seconds, Lorraine Kelly would say something so shocking, so completely out of line, that it would lead to one of the most explosive exits in daytime television history. Sean Bean settled into the bright orange sofa, the studio lights warming his face as the audience applauded. He'd done hundreds of these interviews over the years, promoting projects, chatting about life, sharing a laugh or two. This morning was supposed to be no different. He was there to talk about his latest drama series, a gritty northern crime thriller that had critics raving. Simple, straightforward, easy. Lorraine Kelly sat across from him, her smile wide, but her eyes carrying something else. Something sharper. To her left sat her regular panelists, lifestyle guru Melanie Richards and entertainment correspondent James Crawford. Both wore expressions of anticipation, like they knew something Sean didn't. "So, Sean," Lorraine began, leaning forward with exaggerated interest, "let's talk about this new show of yours. Another brooding northern character. Another tough guy with a dark past. Do you ever get, I don't know, bored of playing the same thing over and over again?" The audience went quiet. Sean's smile faltered, just slightly. He'd expected warmth, maybe some gentle teasing, but there was an edge to her tone that felt deliberate. "Well, I wouldn't say I play the same thing," Sean replied, keeping his voice measured. "Each character has their own story, their own motivations. This role is actually quite different from anything I've done before. He's a father trying to protect his family while dealing with his own demons." Right, Lorraine interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. "But isn't that exactly what you said about your last, 3 roles? Father figure, dark past, northern accent. It's all a bit samey, isn't it?" Melanie shifted uncomfortably in her seat, glancing at James, who raised his eyebrows but said nothing. Sean took a breath. "I think if you actually watch the show, you'll see it's much more nuanced than that. The writing is exceptional. The director had a really unique vision. And the director," Lorraine cut in again, her voice dripping with mock curiosity. "Yes, let's talk about that. There's been some controversy about the production, hasn't there? Some crew members weren't exactly thrilled with the working conditions." "I'm not sure what you're referring to," Sean said, his jaw tightening slightly. "The set was professional. Everyone worked incredibly hard." "Oh, come on, Sean," Lorraine pressed, leaning back with a smirk. "We've heard the stories. Long hours, demanding schedules. Some people are saying you weren't exactly the easiest person to work with." The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Sean stared at her, confusion and frustration crossing his face. This wasn't journalism. This wasn't even a proper interview. This was an ambush. "That's not true," he said firmly. "I don't know where you're getting your information, but it's completely false. I have great relationships with everyone I work with. We're like a family on set." James Crawford decided to jump in, clearly following some predetermined script. "But Sean, you have to admit, you've got a bit of a reputation, don't you? The intense method actor who takes things very seriously. Some might say too seriously." "What's wrong with being serious about your craft?" Sean shot back, looking between them. "I care about the work. I care about doing it well. If that's a crime, then guilty as charged." "Nobody's saying it's a crime," Lorraine said with false sweetness. "We're just wondering if maybe you take yourself a bit too seriously sometimes. I mean, it's only acting, isn't it? It's not like you're actually saving lives or doing anything truly important." The words landed like a slap. Sean's expression hardened. "Only acting? Is that really what you think? That the work millions of people do in this industry, the stories we tell, the emotions we explore, that it's all just meaningless?" "I didn't say meaningless," Lorraine replied, though her tone suggested that's exactly what she meant. "I'm just saying, there's a difference between playing pretend and actual significant work. You're reading lines someone else wrote, wearing costumes someone else chose, following directions someone else gave you. It's hardly rocket science, is it? Melanie finally spoke up, her voice tentative. Lorraine, I think that's maybe a bit harsh. The arts are valuable. They bring people joy and... Oh, please, Melanie, Lorraine snapped, turning on her own panelist. Let's not pretend it's some noble calling. These actors get paid ridiculous amounts of money to memorize words and stand in front of cameras. Meanwhile, nurses, teachers, firefighters, people doing real work, struggle to make ends meet. That's a completely different conversation, Sean interjected, his voice rising slightly. You're conflating issues that have nothing to do with each other. Yes, there are people who deserve better pay and recognition. That doesn't diminish what artists contribute to society. Artists, Lorraine repeated, practically spitting the word. That's a generous term for someone who's made a career out of dying dramatically on screen, isn't it? The audience gasped. Even James looked shocked, though he tried to hide it behind a cough. Sean sat very still, processing what he'd just heard. The mockery in her voice, the deliberate disrespect, it was unlike anything he'd experienced on a talk show before. I'm sorry, Sean said slowly, carefully. Are you actually mocking me for roles I've played? For choices I've made? In my career? I'm not mocking you, Lorraine insisted, though her smirk said otherwise. I'm just pointing out a pattern. You die a lot, Sean. It's become a bit of a joke, hasn't it? The internet is full of memes about it. How many times has Sean Bean died on screen? It's your legacy. My legacy, Sean repeated, his voice quiet but intense, is 35 years of work I'm proud of. Films and shows that meant something to people. Characters that resonated with audiences around the world. If you want to reduce that to a cheap joke, that says more about you than it does about me. Lorraine's smile finally dropped. She wasn't used to guests pushing back, especially not this directly. Oh, so now I'm the problem? I'm just asking questions, Sean. If you can't handle a little bit of scrutiny, maybe you shouldn't be doing press. Scrutiny? Sean's voice was incredulous now. You call this scrutiny? You've insulted my profession, my work ethic, my colleagues, and my entire career. You haven't asked a single genuine question about the show I'm here to promote. What exactly is the point of this? James tried to smooth things over. Let's just take a breath here, everyone. Sean, tell us more about the new series. What can viewers expect? But Lorraine wasn't done. She'd started this, and some twisted part of her wanted to see it through. No, let's address this. Sean seems upset that we're not fawning all over him like every other show does. Maybe he's just used to softball questions and constant praise. Must be nice, living in that bubble. A bubble? Sean shook his head in disbelief. You think actors live in bubbles? We're constantly criticized, constantly judged, constantly under scrutiny from people like you who seem to delight in tearing us down. And for what? What does this achieve, Lorraine? Does it make you feel bigger to make someone else feel small? I'm not trying to make you feel small, Lorraine protested, but her defensive tone betrayed her. I'm trying to have an honest conversation. Something different from the usual promotional nonsense. Honest? Sean leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers. There's nothing honest about this. You invited me here under false pretenses. You led me to believe this would be a standard interview, and instead, you've spent the entire time attacking me. That's not honesty. That's entrapment. Melanie spoke up again, more forcefully this time. Sean has a point, Lorraine. This has gone a bit beyond normal interview territory. Maybe we should what? Lorraine snapped at her again. Stop asking real questions. Just smile and nod, and let every celebrity who walks through that door control the narrative. That's not the show I run. No, Sean said, standing up suddenly. You run a show where you apparently think it's acceptable to belittle your guests, to disrespect them in front of a live audience, to use your platform to settle whatever personal score you think you have. The studio went completely silent. Everyone could feel the shift, the moment tipping from uncomfortable to explosive. I don't have a personal score, Lorraine said, but her voice wavered. She was losing control of the situation, and she knew it. Then what is this? Sean demanded, gesturing around the studio. What have the last 10 minutes been about? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you had an agenda from the moment I walked out here. Did I offend you somehow? Did I turn down an interview before? What could possibly justify this level of hostility? You're being dramatic. Lorraine tried to laugh it off, but the sound was hollow. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You actors, you're all so sensitive. Can't take the slightest bit of criticism without having a meltdown. Criticism, Sean said, his voice dangerously calm now, is when someone offers constructive feedback meant to help you improve. What you've done here is something else entirely. You've been condescending, dismissive, and frankly, cruel. And I don't have to sit here and take it. James finally found his courage. Sean, please, let's just move on. We can talk about something else. Ask different questions. Why would I do that? Sean asked, looking at James with something like pity. Why would I continue to participate in this farce? She's made it clear what she thinks of me and my work. There's no coming back from that. Lorraine stood up now too, her face flushed. Fine. If you want to storm off like a child, go ahead. But don't expect anyone to take your side in this. You're the one who couldn't handle a tough interview. A tough interview, Sean repeated, shaking his head slowly. You keep using that phrase like it justifies your behavior. But asking tough questions means challenging someone's ideas, their positions, their arguments. It doesn't mean personal attacks. It doesn't mean mockery. And it certainly doesn't mean telling someone their life's work is meaningless. I never said that, Lorraine protested weakly. You absolutely did, Sean countered. You said acting isn't important, that it's just playing pretend. You diminished an entire art form and everyone who dedicates their lives to it. And you did it with this smug superiority, like you're somehow above it all. Melanie nodded slightly, clearly agreeing, but too afraid to say so out loud. The audience sat frozen, torn between their loyalty to Lorraine's show and their sympathy for Sean's position. You're twisting my words, Lorraine said, her voice rising defensively. I was making a point about perspective, about priorities. There are bigger problems in the world than whether or not your latest show gets good reviews. You're right, Sean agreed, surprising everyone. There are much bigger problems in the world, and you know what makes those problems more bearable for millions of people? Art, stories, films and shows that let them escape for a few hours, that make them feel less alone, that inspire them or comfort them or challenge them to think differently. That's not nothing, Lorraine. That's everything. The passion in his voice was undeniable. Even Lorraine seemed momentarily affected, though she quickly masked it with another dismissive gesture. Very pretty speech, she said. Did you rehearse that? And there it was, the final straw. Sean actually laughed, but there was no humor in it. Unbelievable. Even when I'm being completely genuine, you find a way to mock it. You can't help yourself, can you? I'm just saying, you actors always have the perfect words ready. It's part of the job description, isn't it? No, Sean said firmly. The job description is bringing characters to life, making people believe in stories, creating moments of truth in fiction. What you're doing right now, that's something else entirely. That's using your position of power to punch down at someone who came here in good faith. James tried one more time to salvage the situation. Maybe we're all getting a bit too heated here. Sean, Lorraine, why don't we just... No, Sean interrupted but gently. I appreciate what you're trying to do, James, but there's no fixing this. She's shown me exactly who she is, and I believe her. I won't be disrespected like this. Not by her, not by anyone. Oh, here we go. Lorraine rolled her eyes. The righteous indignation, the moral high ground. You must be loving this, getting to play the victim. I'm not playing anything, Sean said, his patience clearly at its end. I'm stating facts. You've been hostile, dismissive, and insulting from the moment this interview started. Those aren't my opinions. Those are observable facts that everyone in this room has witnessed. The audience murmured in agreement, and Lorraine's eyes flashed with anger. She wasn't used to losing the room, especially not to a guest. You don't speak for my audience, she snapped. They're here to support me, not some temperamental actor who can't handle a challenging conversation. Then let them speak for themselves, Sean suggested. Ask them if they think this has been fair. Ask them if they'd want to be treated the way you've treated me. Lorraine's face went red. She knew she couldn't actually do that. Couldn't risk her own audience turning against her on live television. That's not how this works. No, I suppose it isn't, Sean said quietly. You get to ask the questions, control the narrative, edit the footage if needed. All the power is yours, and you've used it to try to humiliate someone who came here to talk about their work. I hope it was worth it. Are you finished? Lorraine asked coldly. Yes, Sean said, reaching up to his lapel and carefully removing his microphone. I am finished. With this interview, with this show, with this entire toxic conversation. You're actually walking off? Lorraine's voice carried a note of panic now. Guests didn't walk off her show. This wasn't supposed to happen. I am, Sean confirmed, setting the microphone down on the coffee table between them. Because I have too much respect for myself and for my work to sit here and be your verbal punching bag. This is ridiculous, Lorraine sputtered. You're being completely unprofessional. Sean paused, turning back to face her one last time. Unprofessional? You want to talk about professionalism? A professional interviewer does research, asks informed questions, and treats their guests with basic courtesy. You've done none of those things. So if we're keeping score on professionalism, I'm not the one failing. Melanie couldn't help herself. He's right, Lorraine. This has been really uncomfortable to watch. Melanie, stay out of this, Lorraine hissed. No, Melanie said, her voice shaking, but determined. Someone needs to say it. You've been awful to him, for no reason. He's been nothing but gracious, even when you were attacking him, and you just kept pushing and pushing. I don't need you to defend me, Sean said kindly to Melanie, but thank you. It's good to know not everyone here thinks cruelty is entertainment. Lorraine looked between them, her control of the situation completely shattered. You're all being ridiculous. I was doing my job. Your job is to interview people, not to insult them, James said quietly, finally finding his voice. And I think you crossed a line today. Not you too, Lorraine said, genuine hurt creeping into her voice now. But it was too late. She'd pushed too hard, been too mean, and now even her own team was turning against her. Sean took a deep breath, composing himself. I came here today excited to share this project with your audience. It's something I'm really proud of. Something the whole team worked incredibly hard on. I wanted to talk about the themes, the performances, the craft that went into making it. Instead, I got personal attacks and contempt. So I'm leaving. Not because I'm sensitive or dramatic or can't handle criticism, but because life is too short to let people treat you poorly, especially when you've done nothing to deserve it. You're making a huge mistake, Lorraine warned, but her voice lacked conviction. The only mistake I made, Sean replied, was thinking this would be a professional environment. That's on me for not doing my research, for not knowing what kind of show this had become, but I'm correcting that mistake right now. He turned to the audience, many of whom were nodding in support. Thank you all for being here. I hope you'll check out the show when it airs. It's called Northern Shadows, and I promise you, it's worth your time. And with that, Sean Bean walked off the set. Not storming, not rushing, just walking with quiet dignity toward the exit. The cameras kept rolling, capturing Lorraine's stunned face, Melanie's sympathetic expression, James's obvious discomfort, and the audience's shocked silence. Lorraine stood there, microphone still in hand, for several long seconds before finding her voice. Well, that was certainly dramatic. We'll be right back after this break. But everyone knew the damage was done. The look on her face, the tension in the studio, the way her own panelists had sided with the guest over her. It all told the story. She'd gone too far, pushed too hard, and paid the price for it. As the cameras cut away, Melanie leaned over to Lorraine and whispered, "You really need to apologize. That was not okay." "Mind your own business," Lorraine snapped back, but her hands were shaking. The production assistant's voice came through the speakers. "We're off air for 3 minutes. 3 minutes to process what had just happened. 3 minutes to realize that her attempt to create dramatic television had backfired, spectacularly. 3 minutes to understand that sometimes, when you push someone too far, they push back by simply refusing to play your game anymore. In the green room, Sean was already gathering his things when a production assistant approached nervously. "Mr. Bean, I'm so sorry about what happened out there. That was completely out of line." "It's not your fault," Sean said kindly. "But thank you for saying so." "For what it's worth," the assistant continued, "everyone backstage is on your side. She had no right to speak to you that way." Sean nodded, appreciating the solidarity, but mostly just wanting to leave. "I hope she figures out that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. But that's not my problem to solve." Back in the studio, Lorraine was trying to regain her composure, but the energy had completely shifted. The audience was whispering among themselves, clearly disturbed by what they'd witnessed. Her panelists were avoiding eye contact. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she knew this would follow her. 30 seconds, the production assistant called out. Lorraine straightened her shoulders, forced a smile, and prepared to continue the show as if nothing had happened. But everyone in that room knew the truth. They'd all watched her reveal exactly who she was when given the chance, and it wasn't pretty. The floor manager counted down. 5, 4, 3, the rest silent, indicated only by fingers. The camera light went red. "Welcome back," Lorraine said, her voice artificially bright. Well, that was certainly unexpected. Some people just can't handle honest questions, can they? But even as she said it, trying to spin the narrative, she could see it in the faces around her. Nobody was buying it. Not her panelists, not her crew, and certainly not her audience. She'd crossed a line, and everyone knew it. Outside the building, Sean Bean climbed into a waiting car, finally allowing himself to exhale. He'd stood his ground, refused to be diminished, and walked away with his dignity intact. Sometimes, that's all you can do. The car pulled away from the studio, leaving behind the chaos he'd created simply by refusing to accept unacceptable treatment. It wasn't about being difficult or demanding special treatment. It was about basic respect, basic human decency, things that should never be too much to ask for. Inside, the show continued, but everyone knew this episode would be remembered for all the wrong reasons. Not for any insightful conversation or entertaining segment, but for the moment a host's cruelty drove away a guest who'd come in peace. Lorraine Kelly would finish the show, smile through the remaining segments, and pretend everything was fine. But in that studio, in that moment, everyone had seen the truth. And once you see someone's true colors, you can never unsee them. The interview that was supposed to boost ratings had instead exposed something ugly. The host who prided herself on her warmth and accessibility had shown herself to be capable of calculated cruelty, and the actor who'd been dismissed as just another celebrity had demonstrated more grace under pressure than anyone expected. Sometimes the hero of the story isn't the one with the biggest platform or the loudest voice. Sometimes it's the one who simply knows when to walk away.